Hello, today I will be demoing DeckForge Studio, an all-in-one solution for creating your tabletop card games. Alright, so I'm going to be starting this off with a first-time run of the software, so we'll get some configuration pop-ups at the beginning. Alright, so first thing we're going to see is where we want to actually store the information. So if we use the user profile, this will save the DeckForge Studio folder into your user app data folder. Besides it, we'll place the DeckForge Studio folder next to, or within the root folder next to your executable. It will also create a subfolder besides the program and add it that way. So that's the one I'm going to use. You could also use custom folder path, but I do like using the subfolder next to the executable. Okay, so now that I have that in, the next pop-up we're going to see is I don't have a game started within the software. So once I click OK, it's going to bring us to the Games tab, and it's going to indicate the New Game button just so it's easily accessible for creating a new game. All right, so let's name this one Ecos. So whatever game name you choose. So then once we get a game entered into the system, we're going to be shown our game development progress. So right now, everything there is included in this graph. So we have the idea, the vision, the mechanics, the rules, card components, prototype, play testing, balance and revision, branding and art, production, publishing and release, and then post-launch. We are able to configure this, as well as the weights of the different statuses that you can assign to each of the elements within those subcategories. Okay, so right now say I don't want to track post-launch, I don't want to track publishing and release, I don't want to track production or branding and art yet, just all the way up to balance and revision. So I'll click OK, and now my graph will show that based off of what I actually want to track. So then there's also the different settings that you can set for the different statuses. So not started, you're at 0% completion. If it's a draft, you're at 15%, and so on. So the whole thing behind this is just because something gets approved doesn't mean it's finalized. There's always a chance to go back and have to address it. So I try to give this as much control over how you want to manage the weights for showing actual completion of a game and its individual tasks. So there are several tabs. So you got your idea tab, your vision, mechanics. So this is where all that information can get populated in for traceability and just tracking where you are in your game's development. All right, so I will go back to the DeckForge overlay, or the splash screen. So these are quick access buttons, so you will be able to gain access to these subtabs by clicking these buttons. Also, I do want to bring attention to the assistant. Now, how this works is you can basically have this running while you're going through the software, and it will help you develop this or work your way through the software and what each button does, how to find that button. So if I click this, it'll highlight that feature in red so you can easily find what it is you're looking for. Highlights the new game button. So that's what you can do from these little diamonds in front of each of the different features. And you can save your progress, restart your progress, or skip ahead and go through each of the things. And it will automatically go to the tab that is part of the step from the assistant. All right, so I'm going to close that for now. So I'm going to do a couple of other maintenance things before we get diving into the software. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just disable all the pop-ups at tab opening because it's nothing I need to see anymore. But that is at your discretion. I'm also going to get rid of the require typing delete for destructive deletes. You can keep this enabled. Just make sure that if you're going to delete something, you're pretty sure of what you're deleting and that you want to do it. So that's pretty much everything that I want to do. And if there ever is an instance where something just goes completely haywire and you want to clear all database data, this will wipe everything from the system. So definitely do that one sparingly. Okay, so then other things I'm going to do. So right now I'm going to actually get some icons imported in before I start developing anything. So the first thing I want to do is create a category, and we're going to call this one unit types. Okay, so now that I got a category, there it is, I'm going to import some images. Oh, actually, I got to first move over some files. So the projects folder is where you're going to first get a quick access to anything that's a project file for what you're working on. Okay, so I want this. All right, so those are for my unit types, and that's going to put it into the unit types category. So there, those are imported, and you can control all icons uncategorized or unit or whatever category you create. And then you can also search for an icon by name to find it quickly that way. All right, so I'm going to actually import some additional images. We want that. And that looks good for there. And I'm going to actually create a new category from here. I'm going to just call this Ecos Miscellaneous. Okay. And then we go to all icons. And so there we are. And I'm going to have to refresh because it did not pick up the new table. But there it is now. Okay. So now that we have icons imported in, we are going to go to our game and we're going to add a sub deck. So I am going to add we're going to go with we'll go with commanders first. Okay. All right, so if we wanted, we could add some details here regarding what this card does. That's at your discretion. Okay, so then I'm going to come over to my designer. So first time using it, so it's unconfigured to how I would like to use this. So I want to see the grid for one, but I don't like how that looks. So I don't like the ruler. I want to adjust how that's being done. So let's go to ruler properties, and I want this to actually be the card units, and I'd like to be every 1/4 inch. All right, so now we got that automatically updated, and I want to see the crosshair. Now, the orange or yellow, whatever color gold this is, doesn't show up very good on the canvas, so we're going to change this. Let's put that to red so it shows up nice and bright like. Okay. So first thing I want to do is I want to give this template a name. So we're going to call this Commanders. And then I can look down at the properties. Now, I do have several canvas shapes that I can go with, and we can designate the units. So there's rectangular, square. You can also choose round, hex, or diamond, whatever you want to use for these, using those parameters for those templates. So I'm going to keep this one rectangular and square. And so I'm going to be at 2.5 by 3.5, and we'll keep it at 300 DPI. And then, so I got my bleed set at 1/4 or 1/8 inch, as well as my safe margin set at 1/8 inch. And so border sensitivity, like if you want to get it to where you are getting errors left and right for something grazing a working mode or a border risk sensitivity, you can set that to strict, but keeping it at normal is pretty much all you need to do. It just depends on how much control you want over what you're doing. All right, so I'm going to do a quick overview of what the tools are. So adding a base image, this is basically the main graphic for your card. So this could be a high definition graphic. It could just be, say if you're doing play testing, this is going to be as simple as possible, but this is going to be basically the bottom canvas of your card, and everything else will get added over it. You do have the option to say if you are adding card graphics for like the main feature window, if you have a template like that, you would be able to move those under the base image, but it does start off with the base image at the very bottom layer. Static text is just that. It's a text that's going to be consistent across every single card. That's part of this template. Variable text will be referenced to your data that you ingest in, and we will actually go to that right before we start going into designing this template. Adding a multivariable element. Now, how that works is it starts off as a text variable that has flags defined or associated to this variable. So if the data that you ingest has a word in brackets that is associated with an icon, it would then replace that bracketed word with an image that is associated to that keyword or flag. Then there's also static images. That's just that. It's an image that's never going to change from one template to the next. Then you can add variable images, which you would then associate to a pool off of different variables that are going to be found within that category type. So say you're using an image to represent the type of unit that a card is representing. You would have that keyword associated to an image, and then anytime that the card processor comes across that keyword, it'll place that image in its place. There's also importing an icon, which will import from the icons that we just imported in. You can also import from an existing template. So say you want to keep everything consistent, but there's cards that have a similar template, but there's a minor nuances that are different, so you want to keep them separated. You would be able to import some of the things that are consistent across those templates this way into another template. And then the edge fill will basically, it starts off filling from the safe region or the safe margin up to the edge of the canvas. There is an offset feature, so if you need to go further in or farther away from the safe margin, there is an offset for that. You can generate radius corners or sharp corners for both internal and external corners for that edge fill. So the next thing is the alignment. So these are basically absolutes. So this will be the absolute top left, absolute top center, and so on, based off of relativeness. So you can either do it relative to the safe frame, or you can do it relative to the canvas itself. And then the horizontal and vertical will take the placement of the current location that that element is and either center it horizontally or center it vertically, depending on what you select. Then the next thing is the snapping configuration. So there are a couple of snapping methods. You can set construction lines, which are basically theoretical lines that are placed that you can use for basically creating a gridded structure if you want consistency for easy alignment. And then you can designate, I want the origin to be the center of this element, and that center will be the snapping point to the guidelines. Or you can have it snap to grid, and it will function that way. And you can also have the snapping origin be relative to an individual layer, or you can have it as a global setting for all layers. Then the next thing is the anchor position. So you can select basically the origin and then put in an X and Y and tell it to move to that location. And that's how you would do that. All right, so we're going to start off and we're going to make this commander's template. So I'm going to go in. Oh, actually, I did mention we're going to go import some data. All right, so let's open up our data. And there we go. All right, so I'm going to be creating a new database. I can just get rid of that tail. Okay. All right, so then I can come up here and select, do I want this? Yes, I do. Well, I'm actually just going to only import commanders for now. Just to keep it nice and clean, I can come back and always import and merge with, or if I wanted to, I can import and overwrite the data. So I can come over here and review the data. So I'll come over, select the game link data set. So there's my database name, and then I can select the table. So there's the information that I have regarding that subdeck. So also built into the software is a way of going to an alternate language. So I would select that deck. I got the commanders. So I know I don't want to translate the number. I don't want to translate the civilization or the name or the HP because that's a number, or the class, but I do want to translate the ability name, the action, we don't need to translate the cost. I don't need to translate the damage, but I do want to translate the name and the action for easy understanding. I'm not going to translate the rarity. I'm not going to translate the willpower or retreat or PPK. So I'm going to leave those all in their current state. So then if I come down to the list and I can see what I have available, I'm missing a language. So then from there, I can go up to Manage Languages and see what's currently in the system. I can set a default input, a default output, and I can add some favorites for quick reference or for filtering for the dropdown by checking this favorites only. So only favorites will show up in that dropdown. But then I can come over here, and this pulls directly from Google's catalog. And this is the only feature within the software that requires an internet connection. Everything else is run right off of your machine. So say I want to let's add some Zulu. Add selected. So added language for catalog Zulu. So then I can come over here and just to make sure that I don't have anything that's going to break the system, I can validate the list. And there we go. 21 tests passed out of 21. So now that I know that all the languages are set, so let's go and actually translate the Zulu. I don't know how to read it, but hey. So we got the progress started and it's translating. So there we did 1 out of 16, and so far it's translated 7 cells for that one entry. So this feature was added in case you ever wanted to expand your reach to additional personnel or to additional people. Okay, so we had 16 rows translated, 42 cells, 8 were unchanged, and 0 warnings. Okay. So then we can come back to the data review. I'm going to refresh the table. So now I have the commander's Zulu. I don't know how to read Zulu, so your guess would be as good as mine on if this is in fact accurate. But since it's coming from Google, I will say that it's accurate. I just don't understand it. But this is built in as an option. All right, so we'll get back to our our designer. All right, so let's add in that base image. All right, so I'll select that image. I'm going to come over to the layers button, and I'm going to fit this to the safe margin. All right, so now that I'm in place, I'm going to lock that. And now I'm going to add some variable text. All right, so this is going to be where I want the commander's name. I'll drag that and put the variable in the variable name text box. And so there's that, but I want this to be bold. Let's set this to like 25. And we're going to have that centered and in the middle, just to keep that all nice and uniform. All right, so then I don't need to do anything additional to that layer, so I'm going to lock that in place. So the next thing we're going to add is more variable text. So this will be for the unit's civilization. Bold, make that italicized, and we'll put that center and center as well. Okay, excellent. So then let's add a variable image. So I got my box here. I don't like that color, so let's change that to blue, make it a little easier to identify. All right, so I have either keeping the aspect ratio, which I can use a scale factor and it'll keep everything uniform, or I can disable that and I can set this to whatever pixels I want. All right, so I want to make this, we'll say, 60 by 60. So I can take this, plop it up here, and we're going to name this unit type. All right, let's lock that layer. So now I got my unit type, and it also does reflect the color that you set it to up in your layers section. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to do is I want to add another variable text. And now I know that my commanders all have special abilities. Actually, this will be a static text. So if I do add it as a variable, but I want to make it static afterwards, I can check this box here, and it converts it from a variable text box to a static text box. I come over here, double click, and type in the word ability. All right, so select that. Let's make that smaller because it doesn't need any bigger, and we'll make that italicized and bold. Ooh, I don't like that font though. Actually, I want to change that. All right, so I'm going to go and make this. Let's go with. Yeah, that looks good. And we'll make this my consistent. Okay, now the fact that I did already add text, and I didn't lock that once we saw that nudge, so I can press Control Z and watch that nudge back down. So we'll lock that layer, and we're going to go and make this also the same, and we'll make this the same. Okay. So then I'm going to add additional variable text. So this is going to be the ability's name. Okay, so there's that, and I want that to start about there. And we'll make this just go basically all the way to the edge, just in the case I have an ability that has a really extensively long name. Okay. So I'm going to lock that layer. Oh, I didn't lock this one. Let's get that locked just so I don't nudge it on accident. All right, so now I'm going to add the ability action variable text. So put this down here, slightly under, and let's slide that all the way over, and we'll give that about that much room. That looks like enough space. Okay, actually I'm not going to make that bold or italicized. Okay. Now I'm going to add additional variable text. All right, so let's start getting into their regular attacks. So we're going to call this one attack one name. Okay. I'm going to add another variable text, and this is going to be attack one damage. And that will be bold. So let's lock that, and then we're going to add attack one cost. Okay, and now we're going to add the attack one ability or action. And we'll give it a good amount of space for that one to fill in case there's extensive text. Okay, now I will actually go through and I'm going to unlock each and every one of these, because what I want to do is I want to hold Control and select those 4 items. So then I'm going to I can create a group, which is definitely advisable. So I'm going to group the selected, and you can see a number 1 gets populated here. And now I'm going to duplicate those. So now I get asked, do I want to update those variable names? So, well, I do. I want to make this one 2. So we're going to have a tag 2. Okay. So then I can take this and I can move this down there. So here's the only thing with the grouping. It's great for keeping consistency between one group of data and another group of data, but you're not able to edit individual things. So I would basically then want to go ungroup selected. Oh, I just grouped it again. Ungroup. There we go. So now I have all those variables. And then I can go in and lock these again just to prevent their movement by accident. Okay. All right, so I'm going to add some more variable text. Oh, I added a variable image. I'm going to delete that. Variable text. All right, so let's put this down here. And this is going to be for the rarity. We'll make that bold and italicized. Keep that left. We'll keep that in the middle. All right, that looks good. All right, so I'm going to add some static text. So part of my game has weakness as a make that bold. Okay, let's lock that into place. And then I'm going to add a variable image because the weakness is relative to the unit type. And let's go with, or name this weakness. And I don't want that to be a locked ratio, so we're going to make this 40 by 40. Place that right about there. That looks good. I can arrow nudge. I'm using your arrow keys. So I'm going to lock that into place. All right, next thing I want to do is I want to indicate the retreat cost. So I'm going to input another variable text. Actually, we're going to make this one static because I'll put the title in first. Actually, I am not going to make those bold. Okay, I like where that looks. Let's lock that. Now I'm going to add that variable text that's associated with the retreat cost. And it is locked on the canvas. So I can't go outside of it or anything like that. I'm stuck within the canvas. If I did want something to be outside of the canvas a little, when you do export, it's only going to take what's within the canvas size, but you can do unrestrict, and now I can move that outside of the canvas. If, say, I have an image that I only want a piece of, or that is how you would do that. All right, so this variable is retreat cost. Okay, so then I know that doesn't need to take up that much space, so we'll put this right there. Okay, then the next thing is going to be the, I want to lock that, is going to be my willpower. Okay, so I want static text. Okay, we'll lock that into place, and now we're going to add the variable text that's associated with that. All right, let's lock that into place. All right. Oh, that's not locked. Let's lock that. Okay. So there is my template. Oh, I did forget two things. I need a title for the health points, and then I need the variable for the health points. So we're going to add another static text. Oh, make that smaller. It's going up here. HP. Okay. So I want that to be bold, and we're going to make that much smaller. All right, I like how that looks. Let's lock that into place. Now let's add that variable text for the health points. And we'll center this, and in the middle, we'll make that bold. Okay, perfect. All right, so I have my commander's template. So I'm going to save this template. So now I'm going to come over to templates, and I can view the templates that I have. It gives a low-res preview of what the template is, and then it lists all the variables that are associated with that template. You can add a category, the versioning, any sort of description here, and then save details. You can also open the template right from here if you needed to make any adjustments, and that's how you can do that. So now we're going to go to the data correlation. All right, so I'm going to select the template. I'm going to select the database. So now I have my commanders table pulled up. So right now, this left column here is the column found in your data. These drop downs are the variables that are associated to this template. So I got my civilization. So we're going to come down and find unit civ. So then we can see over here, now we have that populated in. So then I got the unit's name. Commander name. The health points. The unit class or unit type. The ability name. Ability action, attack 1 cost, attack 1 name, attack 1 action, attack 1 damage. Then we got attack 2 cost, attack 2 name, attack 2 action, attack 2 damage. Then we got the rarity, willpower, weakness. So we are also mapping the image variables because those images are going to be relative to the text that's found in your data. Okay, So there is a preview of what this card would look like without the images being associated with that. All right, so we're going to save this template mapping. So now we're going to come over to the icon correlation. So we're going to select our template. We're going to create a new pool. So this is going to be for unit types. So I'm going to add a keyword. And so I know I have foot. And we're going to associate an image from the catalog. So that's the sandal. So I'm going to add another word. And that is mounted. Get the image from the catalog. We can also import a straight file or browse for a file. So you can add an image that way. So mounted is associated by a horse head. And then we're going to go with ranged. So these are associated by the target and arrows. So then I'm going to come down and associate that to the variable or the unit types data column associated with the unit types image pool. So I can come over here and simulate what this would look like. So that's what that would look like if this was a foot unit and they were weak, or their a weak opponent to them was the mounted units. And so then that way you can simulate what that would look like. All right, so I'm going to save this to the template. So then I'm going to come and I can process these cards. So I already have just one game, so it's select the game. I only have one deck, select the deck. So then I do have the option here. So you can either do a non-variable card. So that's a card like, say, for instance, you do the card back. There's no variables on that. So this will allow you to process cards that are just completely static. There's nothing variable about them. Or you can come down and select your data set. So then I already have the one table. And I'm not doing it in an alternate language or anything like that. But then you can come over here and take a quick look at all the different cards. Oh, it looks like I have some empty cells that were imported in during the data management, which is no big deal. So you can come over here. So I got row 8. So I'm going to go from 1 to 8. Actually, that is a bug. Okay, so I'm going to just leave that at 16, just so I know I don't miss anything. All right, so the first thing is we're going to designate what I want this card file to be named. So right now, it's set to column 1, which is just the number of the entry. So I can set this to Roman Empire, which is the second column, or I can set it to column 2, which has the actual unit's name. So I'll come over here, I can verify the readiness, and it passes all 12 checks. The game is selected, the game is top level, the template is selected, the source rows are loaded, the template exists in the library. Basically just verifies that there's going to be no issue processing this data. So I can come over and run the batch. Now I have 16 cards with 0 errors, but I know for a fact I got some cards in here that I do not need. So I can come over, come back to my Games tab. Now I'm already on the Decks tab, and so there's my units, or my different commanders. Then we get into these just excess cards that aren't necessary. So I can come over here, bulk delete, and just select the ones that I want to delete. Confirm. Oh, I missed one. Let's just delete that card. Perfect. So now I have these cards. So then, now that I have these cards created, I can go and export this as a proof sheet. I can export this as a proxy sheet. I can export these as PNG files. I can export these as SVG hybrids. Now, the only consideration that needs to be understood about SVG, the only way you're going to get a true SVG file exported out of here is if everything that you're importing in is also SVG. You're not going to be able to take a PNG and make it function as an SVG as an export. So that's why I do have it as hybrid, because if you're not using all SVGs, you can't export as an SVG. Okay. All right, so like say for instance, I want to export this as a proxy sheet. So I can come down here, I can set the paper size, the orientation, if I want to do it as custom, I can set the height and width. Basically, I can set the margins, the gutters, and everything else. It's centered, or I can come over here and I have two different settings. So I'm going to just go right to a proxy trim. I want that yes, and I'm going to set this to center, and let's preview what that looks like. So I got 6 cards and it's centered it. We got our cut lines and it does measure. I do have some precision measuring tool, so I was able to verify that it is directly the same size that you're exporting these as based off of the template size. So then we can export this as a PDF. And if I want to open that file, and there's my proxy sheet. So then say I want to export this as a PNG. If I want to use something other than, or if I want to use the layout DP or the DPI from the template, I can just select this box here and then that's going to lock this out. Or I can just use 300 DPI because that's I know all the elements that I imported in were already at 300 DPI. So then it exported those 3 cards, or the six cards, and I can view my card. So then I can come here just to confirm details, and there we are, 300 DPI. Okay. All right, so for showing the next features, I am going to actually import a full progress. So you are able to create backups. So I am actually just going to import in over, and I'm going to basically replace all data. All right, so we'll just restart the application. Okay, now we're back in. All right, so once I go to the Games tab, now I will have a much further or a different look on this. So I got my full progress that I'm currently at, all my populated information of the different aspects of the game. So then I can come over to my decks. Now I got substantially more decks. I've got a back card to find, the gear, the heroes, the morale, the units. All of that is here now. So then I can come over and create a playtest deck. So let's create a new one. Let's call this Romans. Okay. So it's a Roman comprised deck. All right, so I can come over here and I want, so I know I want them only getting 1 hero for this one, so we'll give them Marcus Agrippa. So I had 1 of the selected. Okay, so then we're going to go to commanders. We'll add 1 of each. So far I have 4 total and 4 unique cards. All right, so then next I'm going to go to units. And let's see here. Let's add 3 of them, 2 of them, 2 of them, 2. Oh, don't want Mongols though. Oh, I gotta remove. So that was a light cavalry. So let's remove the selected. Don't need the Mongols mixing with the Romans. That's not going to go well for anyone involved. All right. So now let's get some battle orders. So I want just, well, 1 of those. 1 of those. And we'll do a shield wall. 1 of those. All right. So then let's get some gear. But you get the picture. So you can add whatever cards you want and create a playtest deck for your use. So let's, okay. So then I can add this game to the deck's portfolio if I wanted this to be something that was permanently associated with my game, or I can leave it as a playtest deck. But now this is already set up. All right, so the next thing is your playtest. So within here, there's already several playtest profiles that are set up at varying levels of playtest. So I got the rules, like all the different profile names are found in this category, which you can create new, you can edit selected, you can restore the defaults for all these. Say you make it like you change something and you want to revert it back to what it was at its foundation, you can just restore the defaults to those. When you do the restore defaults, you can either choose restoring only the pre-configured, it will restore only user created, or it will fully wipe all of them from this area and do it that way. So those are the different options you have for that. So basically how this works is you have profile elements. There's 3 levels. There's pointed, there's system level, and then there's holistic as the game as a whole. So within these, you can define the name, the purpose, when you want to use this, the type of test this is for, and then you can add your metrics and your thresholds. So clarity, I want this to be greater or equal to 4 when I do a rating on it. The clarification request per session, I don't want them, if someone asking more than 3 questions, for me to consider this successful. So then I can come down here and add feedback questions that are associated to this profile that will be populated on a playtest questionnaire that you would hand out to the people testing your game. So you can assign the different types. You can have a rating, a short answer, a long answer, a multiple choice, a yes or a no question, and then type in the question you want. And then if it's a rating, you give it the rating scale. Every single question, regardless of the type of question, unless it's a rating because it's already going to have a 1 to 5 rating, will get a rating. So then that way the playtesters are able to associate a rating number for that actual question, because then that'll get used in a later aspect of the software. So now that I have these different profiles, I can come in, I can add different profile elements to a playtest profile for its inclusion, or I can remove something. So then I can come over, let's create a new session. So we're going to say this is a test number 1, first play test, very first edition. This is going to be happening, say, on today. It's going to be a guided play test. I want to use these rule clarity deep dive. It's currently planned. Player count, I'm going to have maybe 6 people testing this. The session length we'll say it's going to take about 45 minutes to get through this. Went right by that. I'll be the one facilitating this, and this is going to be Romans versus Mongols. Then once I have a so there's that. So actually, let me get back to my playtest decks. Did I miss something? All right, so there's one little bug. I got to add a feature for that. Once I get that resolved, there will be a list here for selecting a deck that you want associated with this playtest. So we're going to save this session. So from here, I can go and export the playtest packet. So I'm going to save this right to my desktop. So there's that. So then I have my playtest packet. So now what's in this is I have 3 files. I have the facilitator's log, so they're able to go in, basically record anything that they're seeing based off of the profile that was selected for the playtest. There is also an associated questionnaire or feedback form that you would give to the people doing the playtest. So there's the 1 to 5 rating that I was saying that everything is going to have, and then any different additional notes, comments, or anything like that, this is generated automatically for you. And then the third and final file is the response log. So I do have this saved or exported as a CSV file. So you had 6 players. So it populates a column for each of them. And then you can come in and give it a rating. Oh, there's no 7. We'll go 5. Type in. Just to simulate what the software is going to do. So I'll save this from that session. Okay, so now I'm going to come in. I'm going to say, oh, this is now, it's been completed. Let's save the session details. So then I can come over to response. I can select that test. And then it gives the questions that were exported for that playtest. So right now I can either go in and manually enter the ratings, or I can take those results and import those in, and there we automatically have that imported in. So I'm going to save the ratings. Ratings have been saved. So then I can come over to the analysis. So I'm going to come and select that session. So then I can see how that play test did. So the blue line is basically your average. The green is the highest value that you got on that. And then the red is the lowest value you got on that. So then this way you are able to track over time how you're doing based off of actual tangible data. So anything that is, you give it a threshold of 3. So anything that has a score of 3 or less is going to get flagged as an action item. So then I'm going to take this, save that as action items, and then I want to export this sheet for analysis just so I can have a record of it for later. So I'll save that. That's been exported as a PDF. And there it is. And then there's your analysis. So you can keep this for a record, and then that way you can review it at any time, as well as within the software. So then I have also added additional profile analysis, so I can then over time see how the rules clarity deep dive has progressed. So I only have one playtest, so I only have one set of scores to review. And I was pretty low with a 2.93 from the 90 responses. Then I can also go to individual elements. So I have the pointed, system level, holistic, all the different elements or playtest elements that I can view how that has progressed over the time of playtests. The next thing is action items. So I can come over here, I can select an action item, I can update its status, set the severity, who's the owner of addressing this issue, if you're working on a team, and then you can assign a due date for that action item to get that resolved, and then you can update that action item and basically then track any closed action items just to see how things are going. The next thing is the Documents tab. So this is where you can import in the data. So I would come over, select the test. I want to upload that CSV file. So I have that there. I want to upload the analysis. So I got a PDF file. So I can come over here and enable PDF preview, and I can view that PDF right in the software. And then you can also say import the populated feedback forms. You can view that from here as well. So the next thing is our draw simulator. So how this works is, so I can view all decks, I can do a single deck, I can set a manual rating just by populating what I want here and then apply it to the selected, or I can import from the data. So I'm going to select the table. I already have imported this, but for example, this is the battle order, so I make sure I got the battle orders table. I want the name of the card to be associated with the name column, or the card's name to be associated with the card column. That way, so then rarity is going to be associated with rarity, and then PPK is going to be my pulls per 1,000. So then I can sync with the table. Sync, no change because it was already done this way. So then I can come over here and set the pull rate. So do I want the manual pull rate column to be what's used, or do I want the rarity? So I'm going to leave this to manual, and I want to set that to 1,000. So this way, it's going to simulate a pull rate out of 1,000 cards. So ultimately, how this is going to work is I can export the generations to a proxy sheet. I can export it to PNGs based off of the simulations. So then the next thing I have to do is I have to configure a pack or a deck or what I'm creating. So for a pack, I'm just going to do this as individual slots where I can control what's going to get populated in each individual slot, because I only have 10 cards, so it's not like I'm dealing with a ton of different cards or a ton of different slots. So I want this based off of rarity. I can choose either a card's name to be specific, or I can fill it any card from a sub deck. So I say, okay, I want all of these 5 cards, the first 5 cards to be commons. Then I want the next 3 to be uncommons. Then I want everyone to get a morale card, and then 1 rare per pack. So there are no composition profiles that I'm going to be associating with this because I am going based on a card rarity. And I'll be going over the composition profiles in just a minute now. Okay, so that would be this. And I also want to prevent duplicate cards. So everything is random, so no one gets the same thing twice in a single pack. So then the next thing is composition profiles. So right now I have 3 profiles. One that has no restrictions or variable mapping at all, and then I have 2 that do. So this is for, say, a 60 card deck. So I know I have my commanders, my heroes, my morale, and my units that I don't want mixed and matched in a deck, because part of my rules are only a Roman deck can have Roman characters in it. So I go in, I select my deck, so I know that I have commanders. I know that their unit civilization is what I want to control. I would hit add selected, and this variable input here is the text that it's going to look at in that column to keep the grouping clean. So then I would save this profile for that configuration. So then say, for instance, my Roman starter deck. All right, so I want 2 battle orders. I want 12 combat cards. I want 12 gear cards. I want 10 units that are conforming to this Roman starter deck configuration or composition configuration. I want commanders that are also abiding by that. They only get 3. Then heroes, they get 1 hero at random, as long as it says Roman, also based off of the PPK that I designated for the pulls per 1,000 to simulate what someone would actually get if this game ever takes off and I'm producing packs. This will keep it as realistic as possible also for playtesting. So then I can save this configuration. So then when I come over to the draw simulator, there are then several options that I can use. All right, so I have 2 types. I can do a data table, the data tab, which is your data tab here, or I can do a graphical or animated based off of what I select over here. So just for instance, I'm going to just do a data one, and we're going to keep this a 10-pack booster pack. There is no profile associated with this one. I only want to see 1 pack right now. So I'm going to run the simulator. So there's my 1 pack. So I can confirm. So I got common, 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 all the way up to the first 5 cards. Then I got 3 uncommons. Then I got the morale card, and then I got a rare card. And it then will give you my overall. So say if I did 10 packs, it'll give you all 10 packs, and it will show you the collective pull for all of those cards. Now say I want to actually do a Roman starter deck. I do know, okay, well, I got a profile that I need to associate this, but I only want to generate 1 of these. Let's run that simulator. So then I have all the cards based off of having the 2 battle orders, the 12 combat cards, the 12 gear, all the different units, commanders, and 1 hero. So now let's make this fun. I want to actually animate this draw. So I'll come over, let's make, and we'll run the simulation. So I have 2 ways I can do this. I could do a single reveal where you single click and then it will go to the next card, single click, go to the next card, or I can do a full reveal, which will then have all of the cards populated for that pull or for this deck. So I can run through and go click, click, and I can reveal the cards this way if you think that's a way you would like to simulate this. Or I can do a reveal all, and then I can take a look through all the cards that are going to be here. So then I can go from here and export this simulation from this button, which will then make a temp deck for that. I can put this to a proxy sheet, set that to proxy trim. Yes, I want that. And let's do a sheet preview. Let's actually, before I do that, let's set that to center and center. Preview layout. So it's building the preview. So I got 7 pages for all of, still building the preview. So I do recommend keeping the auto preview off, unless you have a really, really beefy computer, just because it could become a resource hog, especially if you have lots of cards, lots of data, and it's trying to crunch all that information at one time. So then I can export this proxy sheet. And I want to view that. So then there's my file. And then there is the entire starter deck's worth of cards for playtest. So that is from start to finish utilizing DeckForge Studio. Thank you for your time. Please give any sort of feedback of any improvements that I can make to this. This is quite a passion for me, and I want to make the best tool for professionals. And with your feedback from professionals, we can get that done. Thank you again, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day. Take care.